the second we enter the town, they fire on us from every possible area, from the top of the building, everywhere.
I saw them go down forward there at the water, and also what's happening.
What's your name?
My name is Yair Jablinowitz.
And you go by Yair Jab.
Yair Jab on socials.
I love it. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you? It's a beautiful day. Look at this. Sunny.
Unreal.
Tell me
a little bit about yourself.
So, you have 3 hours, 4 hours?
Yeah.
I am, a little bit about myself. So, as you can hear, I'm Anglo. Lived in Israel the majority of my life, but my parents made Aliyah from New York. And I grew up in Beit Shemesh. I currently live in Efrat. I lived overseas for several years. I lived in New Zealand for 3 years. I was on Shlichut through the Jewish Agency, working there with the Jewish Federation, Zionist Federation, the embassy, etc. And I lived in the States, in New York for a few years as well. I have an interesting kind of, I would say, my life kind of has different waves, like the waves that I just rode now, right? So, prior to 2005 and after 2005 was a big turning point in my life, because prior to 2005, we all thought, okay, if we give Gaza away, I was a teenager back then, but I was very passionate, and we thought, okay, this is a turning point, meaning if this works, then maybe this is the trajectory that we want to go through. In terms of peace. Meaning if this works, we gave, for those who don't know, in 2005, we gave the entire Gaza Strip on a silver platter to the Palestinians and said, here, take it. There was nothing in return.
You were for that?
I wasn't for that, actually. Okay. I wasn't for that. But the majority of Israelis were, or at least the government was. And I was against it because I was a teenager and I thought this is ridiculous. But maybe if I was a little bit older, I would be like, sure, you know what? If this can work, great. Mm-hmm. The reason I was against it then is because we didn't get anything in return. Mm-hmm. It was like...
And I understand you lived in the Gaza envelope for a little bit of time. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so just going back to what I do now. So currently I work in a tourist company called Israel Destination, founded in 2018, and I've been there since the beginning. And our mission is really to tell the story of Israel. So we've been doing this, for over 3,000 tourists every year. And obviously this year, since October 7th, everything looked a little bit different. Mm-hmm. We would be bringing in FIT, which is like family groups and VIP groups and youth groups and schools and different types of businesses to Israel. And since October 7th, or on October 8th, we canceled all of that and we went on a totally different path, which we'll get to soon. Yeah. But going back to what you asked me, 2005. So 2005, I had family friends that lived in Nevet Kalim, which was the big settlement in Gush Katif, a Jewish settlement. There were around 8,000 Israelis living in the Gaza Strip at that time. And I went there with a few other friends. We believed that this, at the time, just picture this. There were almost no rockets being launched out towards Israel, proper Israel today. From Gaza. They were all small little bombs, I don't know, like the homemade kind of stuff that they were shooting at Gush Katif, which, Nevet Kalim, Netzarim. Netzarim was in the heart of Gaza, Bnei Darom. I literally remember all these towns. Beautiful towns, the most beautiful beaches you'll ever see.
And just explain to me, there's Jews living there, there's Arabs living there, there's Christians living there. A lot of people are coexisting.
Right. So
can you confirm that? Like, as some
I wouldn't. To be 100% honest, it wasn't coexisting. Okay. What you have now in Judea and Samaria, in certain areas, that is more coexisting than what you had there. Unfortunately, because.
So what was life like?
Gaza was always problematic.
Yeah.
But. And again, I was young, so there were Palestinian workers and Israeli workers working together. I would say that the Oslo Accords, which I was I was a young little boy then, but I've heard stories from people living in Gush Katif that they would drive to Gaza to buy challah for Shabbat. and would go shopping there in the markets. That was prior to 1993, the Oslo Accords. It could be that also after that, there has been that, that relationship. I wouldn't know, but...
And bringing you to 2005 now, so you're living there.
Right. What I kind of realized, and this is interesting, and again, in my mentality, I'm very much like a peace seeker. I just want people to coexist. I'm like, my grandmother that passed away a few years ago, she always would say, why can't people just get along? Like such a basic thing, like why can't you just get along? So I'm very much about that, and I really think that dialogue can help in a certain degree with the majority of people. Unfortunately, we learned firsthand that some people just don't want it, no matter what. They're not going to want it. And Gaza was a real test to see if this can work. We gave them the entire Gaza Strip. So I'll just explain. There were, I think, 25 settlements in the Gaza Strip on 2005 till August 2005. We're talking about the northern Gaza Strip. There were like 4 settlements there. There was Nitzarim, which is south of Gaza. There's Bnei Darom, which was the center of Gaza Strip. And then there was Gush Katif, where the remaining settlements were right by the beach.
Okay.
And it was a flourishing, neighborhood and a community. And they had a lot of agriculture and a lot of business, and it was just beautiful. And the majority, by the way, were all peace seekers. They wouldn't...
On both sides.
I know from the Israeli side, Gaza has always been a little bit difficult, but and there were, by the way, Khan Yunis was shooting rockets at Nevet Kalim, but it was not as much as we...
And this is internally.
This is internally. So everything was going inside the Gaza Strip rather than outside towards Israel.
Okay.
So a lot of people in Ashkelon or Sderot were saying, thanks to the residents of Gush Katif, we're able to live safely. Now, that all changed after the disengagement plan in 2005, well, really 2006 when Hamas took over. And we all know how that ended up, and we're in that same situation till today.
Is living in Gaza, what was it meaningful for you in terms of, your personal growth and the way you view today and believe that you'll view the conflict going forward, or it didn't really have an impact?
It's a very good question. I think it had a great impact on many things. I would even say in terms of my family and friends, that a lot of them prior to the disengagement plan in 2005, and by the way, many Israelis were, I'm not going to say more on the left side of the map, because in Israel it's very complex and it has almost nothing to do with left-right. You could be left-wing and still be pro-settlements because you understand that unfortunately the other side is not a partner here, so we have no choice. And once they become a partner, great, we'll be for a two-state solution. But I would definitely say that 2005 is a big turning point for me and my family, that prior to that thought maybe if we do concessions, then perhaps they will be willing to live and coexist with us.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, in Gaza it didn't work, so I don't think...
Say they. Can you tell me who are you speaking?
Well, that's a great question. That's a really good question. I don't think anyone knows that, because I could say the Palestinians, right? I'm not going to generalize, but right now, just so you understand, who are the Palestinians? Who are they?
Yes, a bit.
And now I'm asking you. Who are they? Right? I mean, again, I'm not a political person, because that's just not what I do. We serve everyone from left to right, from Jews, Christians, Muslims, etc. But I will just say that if there was a solution, there would be a solution. And as we all know, in Gaza, Hamas has taken over and tortured its opponents, including Fatah, the PLO, Palestinian Authority, that is governing in Judea and Samaria. And by the way, there hasn't been elections in Judea and Samaria for over a decade, and there's a reason for that, because they're pretty worried that if there will be, Hamas will be elected, because Hamas has more popularity. And this, people don't know. They're like, oh, Hamas is only in Gaza. False. And I'll tell you in a minute why it's false, because I served in the IDF reserves for the last 5 months since October 7th, and I've seen a lot more Hamas there than in Gaza.
Wow.
And there's more popularity for Hamas in Judea and Samaria than in Gaza.
So let me ask you, you did your army service in Israel.
Yeah.
In what year?
2009, I was in the paratroopers. That was like a dream of mine, and it was really, really incredible service. I will say this, because a lot of people think, oh, you go to the IDF to be in combat and to fight and to battle. And of course, that's the purpose. I mean, the purpose is to defend the country. But people don't understand that actually the IDF is a melting pot for many people and many different diverse populations. I'm talking about specifically the paratroopers, where we had, people coming from around the world to serve, whether it's from the States, whether it's from Europe, from Australia, from England, to come together. And within Israeli society, this is like, for many people, it's the first time that they leave their closed communities and meet other people. And we meet Muslims, we meet Christians, Jews, we meet everyone, and it's just a beautiful thing. And to me, what the army does here in Israel is a lot more than just defending the population.
Yeah. Interesting. That's very interesting. So 2009, you're serving. You are released from your army service, your official army service, in
2012. Yeah.
And you maintained a relationship with your unit where you were, doing reserve duty. Tell me a little bit about that.
So usually the way it works is you finish your regular service, and pretty much after, sometimes it's half a year until they put you in your IDF reserve unit, Miluim. Right after 2012, I went to New Zealand for 3 years.
Okay.
And I was there through the Jewish Agency, working with the Jewish community and, with the Zionist Federation and the embassy, etc.
What was your mission there?
So my mission there was pretty much my mission from then until now has been the same. And that is connecting people to Israel.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we did that there, and it's a very interesting community. We loved it. We fell in love with the people there. We're still in touch with many of them. And we went there actually for a year. And we ended up staying there for 3 years. We always knew we were coming back. But it was an incredible experience. And I think that since then, my passion, my drive to connect all world Jewry, but also just people in general to Israel, has been very much, driven from that experience.
Yeah, so you're maintaining this relationship with Israel, with Zionism. Your relationship with the army is also kind of on the back burner, but existing. When you return to Israel, I know you've traveled all over. Were you constantly going to train with your unit? Like, how did you maintain the army relationship?
So it's actually funny. My IDF reserve commander for the first 3 years, I never met him.
Interesting.
And we had a great relationship. We would just speak on the phone, I think every few weeks. And it was great. I never met the guy. But that's the beauty. That it's not just about the service. It's about the people. It's about the relationship. It's about the community. So even when I was physically serving the country in a different way, I was sent officially by the Jewish Agency of Israel to New Zealand, I was still maintaining a relationship with my commander, with my friends in the unit, and I was learning about what's happening. I even felt bad a little bit that I wasn't there. They're like, don't worry about it. You're doing great work here. There's nothing. Don't worry about it. It was pretty quiet times back then. So I think that was a beautiful thing. And then I went to the States for another around 2 years. I lived in New Jersey. And then I came back here around 2016. And right away, rejoined my unit, and it was...
So bring me to October 6th. You're with your unit, doing your work, like your everyday civilian work, but you have this unit, this team, people that you're friends with. I think you would call them your brothers.
Right.
October 7th happens. Where were you on October 7th?
Right. So I will backtrack, because this is actually very interesting. There's an interesting relationship between your Miluim friends, the IDF reserve friends that you have, because for the most part, at least with me, they are like my Miluim friends, and when I see them, they're like my best friends, and we start off where we picked up where we left off, and it's an incredible relationship, and we have a great time together. But like during civilian life, we almost never meet, almost never speak even. Yeah, not on purpose. It's just like people have their own lives. So So we always have like our Miluim friends, and then you got everything else. So but October 7th changed all that. October 7th, it was the Simchat Torah, the holiday of Simchat Torah, the last day of Sukkot, and I was just relaxing at home, making my coffee, chilling with my kids in Efrat, and my next door neighbor knocks on the door, and this was like 7:30 a.m., which was weird. Mm-hmm. I'm like, that early on a holiday to not, okay, something's up. And I was without my phone. My phone was off. I don't use my phone on Chag, so I didn't, I wasn't looking at any updates. And my next door neighbor knocks on the door and says, turn on your phone. And I'm like, why? He's like, trust me, you've probably been called. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, you didn't hear? I'm like, no, it's 7:30 a.m. I'm drinking my coffee. He's like, there was a crazy, this is what he said, there was a crazy terrorist attack in Sderot, like 15 people dead. I'm like, what? No way. Can't be. Like, 15 people dead, I thought that was insane.
Yeah.
Little did we know the devastation that was about to happen. But so I right away immediately turned on my phone, and sure enough, I was already invited by my commander, reached out, and we pretty much had what's called in Israel Tzav Shemone, which means, when there's a war, you are called immediately, and you have to come. So I quickly got ready. Meanwhile, turned on my phone, million messages, phone calls. One of my neighbors calls me. He's like, listen, I'm coming to you in 15 minutes. I'm like, whoa, 15 minutes? It's like, yeah, we got to go. I'm like, okay, fine. I got off the phone. I was just about to tell my wife, listen, there's some crazy shit going on. And she's like, what? And sure enough, 3 sirens. And we live in Efrat. We almost never get sirens, very rarely.
And just so I understand, Efrat is where?
Efrat is...
Southern, central.
Right, Efrat is south of Jerusalem.
Okay.
So it's an area that is relatively far from Gaza. And it's also an area that usually doesn't get rockets.
Okay.
So it's in the region of Gush Etzion, beautiful region. Great wine, by the way. Check it out. Next time you come, we'll have a little chaim. So 3 sirens, which was shocking for me, my wife, my kids, everyone. They're like, what is this? So we had to explain the situation. And as we're going through this process, I'm like telling my wife, Shifra, I'm like, by the way, I've been called to my unit. And she's like, what? What's going on? Like, do you have to go? It's like the middle of the holiday. Like, you wait? I'm like, yeah, I don't think I could wait. Something big happened. So sure enough, it was surreal. You open the window and you look out and you see, it felt like the Yom Kippur War, even though I wasn't alive then, but I could just imagine.
Yeah.
You see like mothers with the babies waving to their husbands, like, bye, as they start driving. And the beginning I saw that, I'm like, oh, okay, fine. It's only like maybe like commanders or something. Like, they won't call me. That's initially what I thought. But sure enough, we were all called. And we got 10:30 a.m. I was already in my base.
And that's where?
That is north of Jerusalem.
Okay, so you were called to the north, north of Jerusalem.
North of Jerusalem, that's where we gear up.
Okay.
So
yes, walk me through that.
I'm always on call, and I know that if if there's an emergency or something happens, I immediately am taken to this specific base north of Jerusalem, okay. Regardless, whether I go to Gaza or go up north or go south, doesn't matter. This is my meetup point.
Let me interrupt you for a second.
Yeah.
Your unit.
Yeah.
The name of your unit.
So 5035, which is our Miluim unit, and we are located in the northern Jordan Valley, northern Shomron area. But really, we could be anywhere. Like, we've been in the Hebron area, we've been up north, we've been south, we've been everywhere. So
what is your unit special?
We specialize in combat. Okay. Yeah, we would be, the ones going into where we need to go in order to protect the people of Israel. Yeah. But we didn't know where we're going. Like, we first got to the base, we all geared up. Everything was unknown. Like, bear in mind that a lot of people keep the Chag and they didn't even turn on their phones. And even if they did, it was just so that they know that they're going to meet their unit.
Yeah.
But they had no idea. I mean, most people didn't even know at that point, 10:30 a.m., the extent of what was actually folding. But we knew something big is happening. And it was, man, I'm telling you, we had like friends that they're like the most optimistic guys, like myself, and I've never seen them so depressed. Never seen them. And by the way, that's something beautiful about Israel, that like you feel like if someone was hurt anywhere, you don't know them personally, but you literally feel like if someone of your people, the people of Israel, was hurt, you physically feel hurt, and you saw it on their faces. Everyone, no matter who they are, left wing, right wing, center, it doesn't matter. Israelis all felt it. And
so that's October 7th.
That's October 7th.
You gear up, you meet up with your unit. Take me and like give me what you can. October 7th to today, what was your mission? What were you doing? Where were you? Tell me about your experience from the time that you actually geared up and put your first magazine into the gun.
Right. So it was a bit crazy. As you could imagine, the first 72 hours, we were told where we're going. We're going to the northern Jordan Valley area, but we weren't told, first of all, for how long. And we were all sure that we're going there just for a bit, and then we're heading all down to Gaza. That's what we assumed in the beginning. We got to a base, which I can't give too much information about, but one of the paratroopers bases that we were supposed to stay at, the soldiers that were there prior to our arrival were in Gaza. And we couldn't go into their rooms because some of them were killed on October 7th. And there's a whole rule in the IDF that if there are rooms of fallen soldiers, you can't enter until like the special, advisor from the IDF comes and checks and takes everything out. So we were kind of waiting. So for, I would say 48 hours, we were just sleeping in random like settlements in the area. And then after we understood what happened, they cleared out the rooms, then we were able to go in there. But it was just crazy to, even when we were going up to the northern Jordan Valley, we felt like, wow, we felt like the war was here. Yeah, this is real.
And so you go up to the northern valley, you're posted, you're settled now, you're able to access these rooms, whatever. What are you doing? Right? What we heard and we saw and we know everything that was coming from Gaza in the south. We've been talking about Gaza. We've been talking about the south, Hamas. What was happening up north that your presence was necessary?
So first of all, we had no idea how big this is going to be. We were all under the assumption in the beginning that Gaza is going to correlate to Lebanon, maybe even to Jordan, the Jordan border. Who knows? And we thought, and that all of the towns and villages in Judea and Samaria, the Palestinians living there, are also going to come out and just start murdering Jews like crazy. That's what we all thought. We thought like this is the end. So, and by the way, it could have been, and it definitely felt that way. And I think that the feeling, by the way, of driving from my town on October 7th and going through, the West Bank, it felt pretty scary, especially prior to us receiving our rifle, and we were like, should we be worried? Should we be like, who knows? Are they going to throw stones at us? Are they going to shoot us? Are they going to lynch? Like, we didn't know what's happening. So, and by the way, this is the reality. People don't know this, but this is a reality in Judea and Samaria, even in peaceful times. People say, stone. It's not just stones, but stones kill. And it's insane that we have to live through that. It's not just in Judea and Samaria. It's in Tel Aviv. Okay? 100%. I was, again, we didn't talk about this, but I was the only, thank God, terrorist attack that I was in was right down there in Dizengoff Street a few years ago. So terrorism will go anywhere. And it's a crazy reality that we have to live through. And it's crazy that we as Israelis are able to bounce back so quickly. Like, to me, that's insane. It's just insane. It's
there's no real words how resilient our people are, but it's embedded into us. It's embedded into our DNA. What was it like? If you could give me a time where you were on duty, you were working. What was your duty like? And then share an experience with me in which you felt, wow, this is real. Where were you? What was the mission? What did it look like?
Right.
What were the sounds?
Okay, so our mission was to take over pretty much a region. In Hebrew, it's called a kav, which you go to an area, and you're pretty much in charge of all the safety and security of that specific area, whatever that means. In peaceful times, it could be just doing patrols, driving around, make sure everyone's safe. In non-peaceful times, it could literally be everything. So after October 7th, we had a mission to protect that region, and obviously missions were changing on the go, but in the beginning, we were told, first of all, to protect the towns. There were many towns, Jewish, Israeli towns in that area, and there was a really big concern that neighboring villages, Palestinian villages, are just going to go like they did in Gaza, 100, 200, 300 Palestinians, and go into these towns and just commit a massacre.
Mm-hmm.
That was the main threat. So our goal was to stop that prior to their arriving even close to these towns. So we were doing a lot of different missions, going undercover in certain areas, waiting. We work obviously all the time. All the IDF works with the intelligence units and the special units, and we work with them very closely. We did a lot of different activities, which I'll tell you in a minute. But in the beginning, the first few weeks, it was mainly on the defense. We were
preempting.
Yeah, we were waiting, and we had a feeling that they might try to commit what Hamas did. So, and just so that you understand, Hamas, as I mentioned earlier, is not only in Gaza. It's in the West Bank. It's prevailing there, and it's strong. And we were specifically next to 4 towns, 4 very dominant Hamas towns. Okay? And we had a lot of intelligence that these towns are going to try and commit those type of attacks.
They were inspired by what
they
Hamas did.
Yeah.
And now there's this fear. They got away with it to the extent that they got away with it. Right. Paying a heavy price, but they got away with it. 1,200 Israelis dead. Right. 1,400 Israelis dead. It's our time to do it as well.
Yeah, because the way it works is there's a whole term in Arabic that they're very patient. As opposed to us Israelis, maybe, they're very patient. And if they're not attacking, unfortunately, if they're not attacking Israelis or Jews, it's not because they don't want to attack. It's because they don't feel like it's the right moment. They have patience, and they'll wait for that right moment, and when you're not expecting it, boom, they'll attack. And therefore, when Hamas, unfortunately, did so very successfully, they waited for us to fall asleep, and they came in. And because we were ready, if we were ready, we could have prevented the whole thing. Let's be honest. We could have easily prevented it. We weren't ready. So that's what they're always waiting for. And therefore, after attacks like that, it gives a lot of inspiration in the streets of Palestinian towns. And they tried. The only reason...
Did your unit thwart a potential attack in the regions that you were in?
Many.
Tell me about it.
And this is something people don't know. I would say every night, if you don't hear of an attack in Judea and Samaria or anywhere in Israel, it's not because they didn't feel like going out. It's because IDF soldiers stopped terrorists from committing those terrorist attacks. Yeah, people have to comprehend that. It's insane that we're living in that type of a region.
Even outside of war times?
Outside of war times. And I know that sounds extreme because we're here. I just went to the beach. I went surfing in Tel Aviv. People are living their lives in Jerusalem. The cafes are filled with people, and people are happy, and business is thriving. And thank God our financial situation is good here in Israel, relatively speaking. Yeah. But we're living in a crazy region. This is a crazy neighborhood, and we're somehow able to stir the boat in a way that we're all peaceful and this is Western. No, we're in the middle of the Middle East.
Yeah.
People here want to kill us every day. Yeah. And it's not fun to say that. And unfortunately, for many years, I was like, guys, calm down. We could do peace. And we did. Abraham Accords, which I'm a big believer in, and I've been to the UAE many times, and I got plenty of friends there. And Morocco, I've got plenty of friends there, and Bahrain, and Jordan, and Egypt. We want peace. Mm-hmm. Israel wants peace more than everyone else. And in order to have that peace, unfortunately, you have to be strong. We never made a peace deal out of weakness. Never. Egypt.
It's a beautiful thing about people leading this country.
Exactly. Egypt, Jordan.
I want to go back, though. So bring me a night. You're called to a mission. Walk me through one mission or one night that stands out to you when somebody says, tell me about your experience over the last 5 months.
There were many, many small things that we did to prevent attacks. But one of the most prominent memories in my mind was actually towards the end of my service after October 7th. And that was going into one of the most predominant Hamas villages in Samaria. We went in because we had real intelligence that there's a group of terrorists that are, about to commit a terrorist attack. And it was imminent, and we had to go in fast, and we had to go in, in the middle of the night quickly, and to not only stop those terrorists, but also get rid of all their ammunition and get some information and intelligence. And usually when we do these type of missions, we don't go in alone. We go in with special forces. We go in with sometimes even some Israeli Arabs or Bedouin that speak the language, and they go in together, and they it's a whole big mission. I have to understand, each mission is complex, is unique, but we do that every single night. I think since October 7th until I finished my service towards the end of February, we went every single night into these villages in order to stop and prevent terrorism. So that night, I think it was in January, freezing night. We are, there's so much suspense with the preparation going into such a event. But we all know that we have to do this, because if we don't, it translates into murder of innocent Israelis. So we all prepare, we all, know what we need to do. Our mission was literally to go into a house in order to catch the terrorists.
You're conducting a raid.
We're conducting a raid. And we had everything planned out. We went in there the second we entered the town. Now, bear in mind, this is like 2 a.m. Second we entered the town, they were waiting for us. They already knew in advance, because they have their spies in the Bedouin towns. By the way, the friendly Bedouin towns nearby that, that are supposed to be innocent, they give information to these terrorists before we come. And so they already know. They all get into positions, and the second we enter the town, they fire on us from every possible area, from the top of the building, everywhere. Now we're in armored vehicles, so we're fine, but it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I'm like, they're freaking shooting at me. Yeah. And it's not like, okay, one shot that missed. No. They hit us. Like, they were shooting. And they didn't stop the shooting until we got out of the town at like 5 a.m. Talking about 3 hours, constantly shooting. And by the way, this is every single night.
When you're driving in, this is the beginning of the mission. What did you feel? Like, your heart's racing, your mind's going?
There's a lot of adrenaline. So honestly, you're very, very focused on the mission. And we always have been. But at a certain moment, I'm like, I actually felt sorry for them. I'm like, these are kids. By the way, these are kids. Half of those that were shooting are 16-year-olds. And then you hear about innocent children being killed in Gaza. They're shooting.
Yeah.
16-year-olds. And I'm saying to myself, where was I when I was 16? And forget about where was I when I was 16. Where am I today? Like, everyone in Israel wants peace. Everyone. Okay? And, like, unfortunately, they're just, like, born to hate. And it's an unfortunate situation. And it's sad to say. And it's not everyone. Okay? I have plenty of Palestinian friends that really, really, genuinely want to live in peace. But they, unfortunately, are the minority. And therefore, when I go into a town and we're greeted so warmly with fire from every single area, I actually feel bad for them. And I'm like, this is what they were brought up. They actually think we're the devil. We're not. But they're just shooting us. And they don't know who they're shooting. They're shooting soldiers, right? They don't know who we are. They don't know if we're left wing, right wing. We're with many Muslims. Christians. They have no idea. They're just shooting.
So you go in and you accomplish this mission?
We go in, we accomplish this mission. I mean, thankfully, it was a successful mission. But it was actually, at a certain point, you feel safe when you're in the vehicle, but there's a time when you get out of the vehicle and go into the home that you need to remove the terrorists. And that short section, it's actually pretty nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
And you have to, and there's a whole method of how you do it and how you conduct it, and you have backup and people, and you have one person go in first, and they kind of have an eye, and they call you when you can, but it's still crazy.
Yeah.
And then when we were in the house doing what we needed to do, the shots continue. And
I don't know, what about the people living around? Like you said to me, it's 2 a.m. in the morning. You're going to remove terrorists. You're getting shot around. Like, normally what I think about at 2 a.m. in the morning is out of my control because I'm asleep.
Right.
Right. And, you know, if you drive through any normal neighborhood in the world,
right.
not just saying in the West, in the world, this isn't unfolding. What are the civilians living through and experiencing, or are they all complicit? Like, what do you feel because you were there?
Yeah, it's insane. That was my first thought. I was like, how much can you hate us that you're willing to wake up at 2 a.m. and start shooting us until 5 a.m.? Like, honestly,
where are they getting all that ammunition?
Where are they getting that ammunition? Where do you think?
Oh, I know where. Maybe the people watching don't know.
They're getting it from Iran. Yeah. That's the truth. And by the way, we stopped. This is another mission that we had on the Jordanian border. We stopped lots of ammunition that was coming in from Iran through Jordan. It goes to innocent Palestinian town on the Jordanian in the Jordan Valley, and then they transport it to the Hamas terrorists in northern Jordan Valley and the northern Samaria area. And we haven't cleaned up these towns for years. And they have a whole generation that was grown on the fact that Israel is the devil and that terrorism is the only way. So they can't even imagine a different reality of living in peace. So it's a sad situation, unfortunately, but I feel like we can't deny the reality, you know, as much as you want. I wish that there was a partner to peace, because the last thing I want is to be going into villages to stop terrorists at 2 a.m. No one wants that. Okay? And as I said, the majority of Israelis want peace, genuinely want peace. But they want real peace. I think we could all...
Not a Band-Aid.
Exactly.
Where it's going to last for a couple of years and then we're back.
Exactly.
So that brings me to kind of, I'd say, phase 2 or chapter 2, which is, you know, so you've lived this now 5.5 months where you're back in uniform. We saw what unfolded with Iran a couple of weeks ago. Unprecedented amount of rockets and gifts sent via air to Israel.
Very kind.
Yeah, very kind of them. And what does the future hold in terms of what the IDF needs to accomplish in order to, what I would say is actually uprooting the weed? You know, because I asked you, where are they getting this ammunition? Iran. Where is Western, and American colleges getting their funding? Iran, Qatar. What do we have to do to actually once and for all bring peace and stability to the region?
Well, you kind of answered it in your question. And unfortunately, for too many years, we've been using a Western approach in a Middle Eastern region that doesn't coincide with a Western approach. And now we in Israel have been doing that as well. And that may have led to the October 7th disaster. We want to make believe that we're living in a Western country, which we are, where all of our neighbors, kumbaya, want to live in peace. Unfortunately, that's not the reality, and we gotta face reality. On the one hand, I think we have an incredible opportunity right now, because for the first time, there's an alliance of Arab countries that are also against the Iranian regime and the terrorism that they are promoting around the entire Middle East. They're promoting instability to Yemen, to Lebanon, to Iraq, Syria, Israel. So I think many Arab countries would like to see them gone as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that instead...
Do you feel that Israel's doing the dirty work for the rest of the world?
In certain situations, yes. Because...
How does that make you feel as somebody who suits up to protect not just Israel then, but the rest of the Middle East?
Well, first of all, it's an honor to defend the people of Israel. It's an honor to defend the land of Israel, and there is nothing that I could have been more proud of than to do that. But it's kind of insane that people in the West, especially, are condemning Israel and condemning the IDF when they don't understand that this is just the first phase. And it's not me saying something. Just listen to them. Like, people need to start listening to their enemies and giving them the actual respect, because we see what happens when we don't listen. For years, Hamas in Gaza was saying, we are going to come. They literally said this. We're going to cross the border and we are going to take over these towns and kill innocent people. They literally said that. Well, come on. What are you, crazy? Nah, you're just saying that to scare us. No, they actually believe what they say, and they did it. So maybe we should take our enemies a little bit more seriously, aka Iran, and let's just say you always got to go to the source. You always got to go to the source, because if you don't get rid of the source, then even if you get rid of Hamas, you'll have Hezbollah in the north, and you'll have the Houthis in the south, and you'll have more terrorist groups, in Iraq and Syria coming up. How do you get rid of it? I don't envy anyone in the Israeli government or in the U.S. government, because I don't have the solution to it. But what I do know is you have to address the problem. You can't ignore it. Whatever it is. Maybe it's building an Arab, Israeli, American, or Western alliance like NATO in order to put pressure, the real pressure, not fake pressure, real pressure on Iran that is totally disturbing the peace of the entire Middle East and of the entire world. That's what needs to be done.
It's like an interesting cycle that we're in. Like, if you really take a look at where we were in 2020, leading up to the elections, we had the George Floyd anarchy folding in the States. And most people, they don't talk about this, but there's very interesting parallel that can be drawn between what we're actually seeing vis-a-vis media, Antifa, just civilization in the U.S. and what's happening today, or what happened in 2020 and what's happening today. Do you think we're at a turning point? Because I believe that after 2020 and prior to the election, all this anarchy happened, and then we kind of fell off the mat with Black Lives Matter. They became exposed. We realized there was a lot of paid actors. Do you believe that we are in a very similar cycle with what's unfolding, and that actually all these paid protests and these, the progressive left are starting to become exposed, and therefore we actually might have a shift?
That's a very interesting question. I will say that if there's anything that I'm scared of, it's of that. We could deal with Iran and terrorists. It's not going to be easy, but at least we know that we're dealing with a terrorist organization. We're dealing with people that want to kill us. So we have no choice but to fight back and to defend ourselves. So that is a certain war that we're able to take. But the fact that America, the USA, is crumbling from inside, the values that that we all believe in, coexistence, liberal values of peace, prosperity, freedom, like those actual values are being taken, are being compromised. And that is really scaring me, because they don't only stand for anti-Israel rhetoric or anti-Jewish rhetoric. They're against Western civilization as we know it today. They're against America, and they say it out loud. They're burning American flags. Like, to me, I don't understand how the USA isn't doing...
Are those paid actors, or are those legitimately the core of people,
Listen.
And because if they are paid actors, then those tend to get the most media time, which means that we're getting as well a skewed perception of what is actually...
You know what I feel when I see these riots and rallies? I feel like in The Simpsons, they have that zombies episode, or any zombies series, like Apocalypse. That's what I feel.
Yeah.
I feel like they're just like, hello, wake up, like flick them or something. They have no idea.
Yeah.
They just they're like a bunch of robots that are they feel and seem brainwashed, because there's even their chants. It's like the same chants. They rhyme, I'll give them that. Yeah. But like it feels like it's all planned. All the tents, the same color.
Yeah.
Like
all the vests.
You gotta be a real idiot to really think that this was just out of the blue, an organization, a revolution. This has nothing to do with. This is nothing like Vietnam. This is nothing like it. By the way, I'm totally with hippies. I would love to be with hippies against war. I'm also against war.
Yeah.
Like if you're against war, then you should be with Israel.
Yeah.
You know? It's like the most ridiculous thing. And I'll tell you something. This is crazy. As someone who lived in the States, I'm American. I go to the States a lot. And then you come here to Israel. It's like you guys are fighting against war. Have you been to the Palestinian Authority? Have you actually like sat down with them and asked them what they want? Because it's just like when they say free Palestine, I really, really feel like they have no idea what they're talking about. They really think this is like a Vietnam, it's a bunch of hippies living in Palestine with their olive trees, and all they want is to go out with their sheep, and they're so peaceful. Nonsense. Yeah. Israel made peace with anyone that wanted to. If we haven't made peace with the Palestinians, there's probably a reason.
I wanna wrap it up, and I wanna ask you. Here in Israel, I think we're actually, ironically, more mentally at peace because we're here on the ground. I can say that firsthand. I moved here in September. Great time to move here. Everybody called me, you should come home. No, I'm not coming home. I'm staying even after October 7th. And I felt that I was consoling people back in North America over the last 6 months. What is your message? And the message of a person who lived firsthand in nights and days with a uniform on to protect the country. What is your message to Jews around the world that feel scared, that don't know what to do, that don't know where to turn on campuses? What do you have to say to them?
So I will just say that I had my my wife's grandmother over for us for Shabbat a few weeks ago. And she's a Holocaust survivor. She has a whole fascinating story. And she told me that this is the first time that she ever feels like a second Holocaust is actually possible. Not because of our enemies here, but because of the rhetoric in Europe and in the US. Why? Because it's similar. She said it's similar to the brainwashing that was going on in Germany. I think about it. Germans are an intelligent, enlightened society. They weren't dumb. They knew what's going on. But it took a serious machine, funded machine, in order to brainwash them in such a way that they actually believed it. And that same machine is happening. Obviously, there are differences, but we feel the similarity going on, funded by Iran or Qatar or whatever it is, funded by those that are definitely anti-Semitic and definitely anti-West and anti all the values that we believe in. And you see that it's working. So that gets me really nervous. But what's different from 1938 is that now we have our army. And believe me, as someone who's been inside and outside an army that you can trust, and I feel comfortable sleeping every night because I know that the IDF is here and will always be here to defend the Jewish people in Israel and the entire Israeli population, and also Jews around the world. So I definitely believe that, and I'm hearing this a lot from my friends that are feeling nervous, whether they're on college campuses or just roaming the streets of New York and LA, that these are scary times. And I truly hope that people will actually wake up and understand that, and that America will actually have a serious stance against these riots. But on the other hand, you could always be assured that you have a home in Israel, and Israel will always accept you and bring you in and protect you. And now more than ever, we feel that it's needed and that this is the place to be.
not a paid sponsor for enough is
Not paid.
And my last question for you. Yeah.
By the way, I will just say a disclaimer, because there are people that are like, Aliyah. I was never a believer in someone that has to advocate for Aliyah. Why? Because if someone wants to come to Israel, I will do everything to help them. But it's important for us to have our world Jewry around the world, and I appreciate it very much. I have family members and friends that live,
all the time
across
fallacy.
the sea.
It's a fallacy to have every Jew here.
Exactly.
If we have every Jew here, we won't have pockets. We won't have the tentacles we need to bring
exactly
here.
Exactly. Therefore, I don't believe that everyone has to come here, and also I don't want people coming here who are going to have a rough time and that they have a great life there. I definitely don't believe in it. So I'm not an advocate for Aliyah unless people want to come here, and this is a safe haven.
I agree. I told a lot of people the same thing over the last couple months. Like, I'm going to move to Israel. I'm like, it's a fallacy.
Right.
Every Jew moves to Israel, then we're fucked.
Yeah.
The fact that we have our little islands everywhere is what actually gives us our superpower. What is your one request to non-Jews outside of Israel? Request.
My request, and this is actually pretty much my life mission, is I think that everyone needs to come to Israel. Everyone. Not only because it's the Holy Land, I think that Israel actually, especially in today's day and age, has a lot to offer to all of humanity and all of society, and I'll explain. To me, Israel is not just a beacon of peace, prosperity, innovation, but it's an example of how a nation should be. Because we were ranked the 4th happiest nation worldwide, and every year we're on the top of the list. There's a reason to that, because we're doing something right. Not everything's perfect, believe me, and I'll be the first one to condemn everything here that goes on that I don't like. But there is a sense of community here in Israel that we're all brothers and sisters, regardless, and we felt this a lot. It was enhanced during the war. But there is a very large community support. There is a very innovative mindset here that creates all the high-tech hubs that we see in businesses and industries. But it's also a very healthy mindset that I think people should come and see. Also, there's a lot of culture and food and great stuff, 100%. But I think the people here is what everyone says when they come here. Wow. And there's a reason for that. And we're diverse, as opposed to all the riots across the West. We're actually very diverse population. Believe me, we're not all white. I might be, but the majority of us are very come from different backgrounds in different areas around the world, Middle East, etc. And all these different cultures actually bring a beautiful melting pot of food and people and atmosphere, and I think it's a beautiful thing. So I would love for people to come here, but I would also love for people to really see the truth with what we're coping. That despite, I think it's a beautiful thing that we have been victims for thousands of years, but we've never stooped down to that level of feeling that we're a victim and like letting that pull us down.
Actually could have be a downfall for us. I mean, excuse me, it actually could have been something that has caused us to constantly be victims, because for the first time, October 7th, it didn't last long.
Right.
There was a sense of, wow, we were real victims.
Right.
At least in the modern day. Interesting, and just briefly, if you can touch on it, is before October 7th, this country was extremely divided. There's a judicial reform. You saw every Saturday night, probably every night actually for that matter, there was some sort of protest. This country, when I explained to people what it was like the first month, aside from very fun and very good and all that, was like, well, there's a sense of like, you don't believe what I believe in, I hate you. I'm talking internally.
Yeah.
What did that do for the country leading up to October 7th, and where are we now after October 7th?
So for me personally, that was a really, really difficult time, because unity within is, to me, one of the most important things. And I didn't even have an opinion on the matter. It was just so troubling that we're fighting over this situation. And again, I think that we could have probably come to a certain compromise, but it was the atmosphere was so divisive that there was just no negotiations. And to me, that is the worst thing that could happen, because we'll deal with our enemies outside, but if we can't deal with ourselves inside, internally, then we have no future. And what October 7th was one of the most horrific events that we experienced here in Israel since the establishment of the State of Israel. But what I did feel prior to October 7th, at least within my unit, was something beautiful. We had the most diverse squad you've ever seen. We have left wing, like extreme left wing, right wing, not extreme, but right wing, left wing, Jews, Muslims, Christians. We've got Druze. We have people from cities, from settlements, from everywhere. Also diverse in terms of geography. Really the most diverse squad you've ever met. And we all came together, best friends, and we were all united because we all felt like we're putting politics aside. And by the way, we spoke about it, but we spoke about it with respect as true brothers and not as something divisive. And I really, really hope, I have a feeling that things are kind of breaking off now, but I really, really hope that this unity that we experienced since October 7th will last forever. Because if we're united, we could deal with anything. If we're divisive internally, then our enemies feel it, they sense it, they smell the blood, and that's when they act. So we can't give them an excuse, but it's not even for them, it's for us. Where, we could have arguments, and I think that that's totally fine. We, as Jews, we're very opinionated, and that's great. I think that we must continue, but we must be respectful. We must not make this create a chaos that we can't overcome.
You're a human being, first and foremost. Put a Jew aside, put an Israeli, put a proud father aside, you're a human being.
Right.
Every human being has a vision, a goal, a dream. Aside from war-related stuff, a soldier, peace, what is you, Yair's dream the next 5-10 years as a person?
I'm already living the dream because I'm living here in Israel and I'm loving every minute. But my dream, as someone who works at Israel Destination, a tourist company, it's always been connecting people. It's always been about connecting people. And more specifically, it's connecting people to Israel. But it's really enjoying life because we're always so busy with what's going to be next. We're always living like for something. We study in order to get a degree. We work in order to go to pension, or I don't know, we feel like we're going to be sitting under some coconut tree in Fiji, right? We always do things for something else, but we should actually live the moment here and now, because I'm a big believer, again, planning ahead. I do that a lot, and financially and spiritually and personally, and all that is great. But we should enjoy the process. We should enjoy the work. We should enjoy everything that we're doing. And as someone who's been involved in the travel industry for many years, I'm a big, big believer that you can create incredible things through travel. And I'm a big believer not in traveling just for the sake of relaxing, but for the sake of learning, for the sake of experiencing, learning about yourself, telling a story. So here in Israel, when we bring people, whether it's groups or individuals, we tell a story. It could be the story of Israel. It could be their personal story. And I think that is really, really important, that we all have our different human being personal stories. We should all feel like we're writing our own book and enjoy the process.